Hi student, to the lecture 1, the hygiene as science of preventive medicine, on task method used in the hygiene, low hygiene, main history period of development of the hygiene science, concept about sanitary and sanitary organization, modern problem hygiene science, and importance of hygienic knowledge for doctor. Hygiene is the basic preventive medical discipline focused on preservation and improvement of health of the population. It generates all base of theoretical and clinical discipline in the field of prophylaxis, integrates knowledge about complex influence of an environment for health of the man, work out principle and system of preventive measures. The term hygiene came from ancient Grecian word hygienus, that means curative breathing health. Also its origin is connected with the name of mystical goddess of health Hygiene, by daughter of the god of medicine Aesculape, who was represented as the beautiful doll holding in hands a bowl, twisted with the snake. At ancient Greeks, the snake personified a symbol of wisdom. It drank poison from a bowl of a life and neutralized it. The bowl with the snake was kept till now as an emblem of medicine. The following definition now is accepted. Hygiene is a science which investigates regularity of influence of the environment on the organism of the man, and public health with the purpose of the substantiation of the hygienic norm, sanitary rules and measures, realization of which will ensure optimal condition for vital activity, improving of health and preventive of disease. General hygiene and preventive medicine is a rapidly developing branch of medicine. Many different disciplines contribute to the growth of preventive medicine. Physicians provided health screening and diagnosed disease. Sanitary engineers built a water and sewerage system. Epidemiologists trace the source of the disease, outbreaks and their modes of transmission. Vital statistical provided quantitative measures of death and disease. Lowers wrote sanitary goals and regulation. Public health officers provided care and advice to the sick in their home. Sanitary inspectors visited factories and markets to enforce compliance with public health ordinances. Preventive medicine developed as a branch of medicine distinct from public health. By definition, preventive medicine is applied to healthy people, customarily by action affecting large number of population. Its primary objective is prevention of disease and promotion of health. It got a firm foundation only after the discovery of a causative agent of disease and the establishment of the germ theory of disease. The case of concept of health care approach has experiencing a dramatic change. Today, health is not merely an absence of disease. It's related to quality of life instead. Health is considered a means of productivity. Thus, health development is essential to socio-economic development as a whole. Since health is an integral part of development, all sectors of society have an effect on health. Scope of medicine has extended from individual to community. Study of health and disease in population is replacing study of disease in man. Germ theory of disease gave place to never concept, multi-factor causation. Health is the functional and or metabolic efficiency of an organism at any moment in time, at both the cellular and global levels. All individual organisms, from the simplest to the most complex, vary between optimal health and zero health. Indeed, perfect health is an abstraction which may not be attainable but is essential for an individual or a family or a group or a community's striving. Optimal health is the highest level of health attainable by an individual in his or her ecological setting. Positive health means striving for preservation and improvement of health. Negative health means scientific efforts for prevention and cure of disease. To promote and maintain a state of positive health, an individual needs the following prerequisites: supply of fresh air and sunlight, safe and potable water supply, balanced diet, healthful shelter, adequate clothing, hygienic environmental sanitation, protection from communicable and other avoidable affectation, complete sense of protection and security both socially and economically, a congregational social and cultural atmosphere. In addition, an individual should have a regulated way of life which proper rest and relaxation and good and simply happiness. Main attribute hygiene science. Toilet, object of the study, problem, law, method of the study, and history. Basic aim of hygiene: preservation and improvement of the health of the man. In this occasion, the English scientist Peirce has taught water hygiene has a great and generous purpose: to make development of the man most perfect, life most intense, wasting least fast, and death most remote. The task of the hygiene science: study of the natural and anthropogenesis factor of the environment and social condition which influence on health of the man. Study regularities of influence of the factor and condition of an environment on an organism of the man or population. Scientific substantiation and working out of the hygienic norms, rules, and measures which help use maximum positively influencing on an organism of the man, the factor of an environment, and elimination or restriction up to safe level unfavorable operating ones. Introduction in practice of public health service and national economy developed hygienic recommendation, rules, and norms check on their effectiveness and perfecting. Prediction of the sanitary situation for the nearest and remote perspective in view of plans of development of the national economy. Definition of appropriate hygienic problem, which implying from prognostic situation and scientific working out this problem. In practical implementation of this goal, the significant role belongs to medical staff of hospital because they have to increase the awareness of their patients about hygiene. Prophylaxis, measured designed to preserve health as of an individual or the society and prevent the spread of disease. There are three kinds of prophylaxis: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary or radical prophylaxis is directed towards the elimination of the main cause of disease. It can be carried out both using hygienic regulation like maximum permissible concentration or maximum permissible level and other normative value which can help to reduce or factor effect up to safe level. This kind of prophylaxis is a part of preventive sanitary control of the stage of planning. Secondary or palliative prophylaxis is an early determination which using for medical examination of premorbid status of practically healthy people exposed to effect of adverse environmental or risk factor for medicine prevention and other measures. The medicine and other measures like medical prophylactic nutrition and using of individual protection facility can help to prevent of disease appearance. Third, prophylaxis or rehabilitation is a complex of measures on prevention of after effects of already showed up disease. These measures conduct physician in a hospital condition. In comparison with the first two kinds of prophylaxis, with one of the least effective for reduction of morbidity and mortality of the population. The present problem of hygienic science tested to the existence of constant interaction of the organism and the environment. Famous Russian physiologists Pavlov and Sechenov, on the basis of this interaction, developed a concept of the dynamic balance between the human body and the environment. Based on principle of interaction between the human body and the environment, the law of hygiene lie. There are 6 laws of hygiene. First, the law on the free driving forces of the health disorders, source of the harmful factors, the method of exposure, acceptable appearance. Second, the law of the negative environmental impact of human activity. 3. The law of the negative environmental impact of natural extreme events. 4. The law of the positive impact on the environment of human society. 5. The law of the negative environmental impact of polluted environment on human health. 6. Positive impact of the environment on human health. The principal topic of the subject are hygiene of atmosphere, air, water supply hygiene, hygiene of nutrition, occupational, radiation, hygiene of child and teenager, hospital hygiene, hygiene of extraordinary situation, tropical, soil, personal hygiene, and others. It has many aspects. Personal hygiene, proper living habits, cleanliness of body and clothing, healthful diet, a balanced regime of rest and exercise. Domestic hygiene, sanitary preparation of food, cleanliness and ventilation of the home. Public hygiene, supervision of water and food supply, contaminant of communicable disease, disposal of garbage and sewage, control of air and water pollution. Occupational hygiene, measures that minimize occupational disease and accident. Mental hygiene, recognition of mental and emotional factors in healthful living, and so on. Sanitation. The word sanitation is derived from the Latin word sanitas, which means a state of health. Environmental sanitation means the control of all those factors in man's surrounding, which cause or may cause adverse effect on his health. The sanitarian directs his efforts towards hygiene of water and food supply, hygienic disposal of human waste, hygiene of housing and control of vector and rodents. Sanitation system aimed to protect human health by providing a clean environment that will stop the transmission of disease, especially through the fecal-oral route. For example, diarrhea, a main cause of malnutrition and stunted growth in children, can be reduced through adequate sanitation. There are many other diseases which are easily transmitted in communities that have low level of sanitation, such as ascarid, a type of an intestinal worm infection or helminthiasis, cholera, hepatitis, poliomyelitis, schistosomiasis, and trachoma, to name just a few. A range of sanitation technologies and approaches exist. Some examples are community total sanitation, container-based sanitation, ecological sanitation, emergency sanitation, environmental sanitation, on-site sanitation, and sustainable sanitation. A sanitation system includes the capture, storage, transport, treatment, and disposal or reuse of human excreta and waste water. Several sanitation levels are being used to compare sanitation service levels within countries or across countries. Key facts. In 2070, 45% of the global population, 3.4 billion people, used a safely managed sanitation service. 31% of the global population, 2.44 billion people, used private sanitation facilities connected to sewers from which wastewater was treated. 40% of the global population, 1 billion people, used toilets or latrines where excreta were disposed of in situ. 74% of the world population, 5.5 billion people, used at least a basic sanitation service. Cropland in peri-urban areas irrigated by mostly untreated urban wastewater is estimated to be approximately 36 billion hectares, equivalent to the size of Germany. Poor sanitation is linked to transmission of diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, hepatitis A, typhoid, and polymyalgia and exacerbates stunting. Poor sanitation reduces human well-being, social and economic development, due to impacts such as anxiety, risk of sexual assault, and lost educational opportunities. Sanitary organization, a system on materialization state politics in the area of sanitation, hygiene, and epidemiology. History of the system sanitary organization begins with the City Sanitary Agency, created by decision of Baku Urban Assembly in 1890. At present, the sanitary organization releases state sanitary epidemiological control in country. But what is the difference between the hygiene and sanitation? Hygiene has to do with personal habits for bodily cleanliness. Sanitation is about facilitating hygiene with clean surroundings. Hygiene and sanitation are mutually bound. On sanitation, World Health Organization monitors global burden of disease and the level of sanitation access and analysis that helps and hinders progress. Such monitoring gives member states and donors global data to help dictate how to invest in providing toilets and ensuring safe management of wastewater and excreta. World Health Organization works with partners on promoting effective risk assessment and management practice for sanitation in communities and health facilities through the World Health Organization guidelines on sanitation and health, safe use of wastewater, recreational water quality, and promotion of sanitation safety planning. World Health Organization also supports cooperation between WASH and health programs such as neglected tropical disease, cholera, polymyalgia, and antimicrobial resistance. During the development of hygiene, use many methods of study an environment and its influence on the health of the population. Method of hygiene divided into two main groups. First group include method study of environment condition. Second, method of studying of environmental influence on human organism and health. Method of environment study include method of sanitary inspection, physical, chemical, biological, instrumental laboratory, and others. Method of sanitary examination or inspection with further sanitary description. Speaking about method of a researcher, the exterior factor, first of all, it's necessary point at method sanitary description, which for a long time being almost earned. It did not lose the value and now. The specific hygienic method is a method of a sanitary examination and describing which is used for studying the environment. Sanitary examination and describing is carried out according to special program, scheme, which contain questions. Answers to these questions characterize the object which is being examined hygienically. As a rule, it is usually supplemented by laboratory analysis, which allow to characterize environment from the qualitative side. Chemical method of the study, epidemiological method of the study, biological, experimental, is this also method applied in the hygienic practice for studying environment condition. There are widely different use kind of hygienic experiment. Experiment with simulation of natural condition, laboratory experiment on animals, chamber experiment on people, natural experiment. Experiment with simulation of natural condition is used for examining and predicting processes which are going on the surrounding world. For example, for examining the influence of chemical admixture on the process of self-clearing of water in reservoir. Second method, a laboratory experiment on animals, helps to study the influence of environmental factor on the organism, which meets the goal to substantive hygienic norm. In the process of this experiment, the following methods are used: physiological, biochemical, immunological, histological, microscopic, radiobiological, genetic, and others. Third method, chamber experiment on people, is used to study factors on the common organism and determine the norm. This method is used to study such factors as microclimate, lighting, noise, neuropsychic strain, and others. And third method, natural experiment, helps to study influence of environmental factor on the human health in a real life condition. For example, studying health of people, especially children, who live at different distance from enterprises, throwing out toxic gaseous substance into the atmosphere. Natural experiment allows to check up hygienic norms which were determined in the experiment on animals. The epidemiological method, statistic method, is used for studying incidence of disease. For example, hypertension, coronary disease, diabetes, ulcers disease, and others. They study during a certain period, a year, a month, on a certain territory, different region of the city, republic, among different groups of population, which differ one from another by age, gender, occupation, condition of water and food supply, condition of life, and others. Analysis of this data is used for determining causes and conditions which favor the development of disease as regional pathology, for planning prophylactic measures. The method and modeling are widely used. One of the main and difficult hygienic problems environment on the health. The health of individuals is studied by way of medical examination with the usage of anthropometric, clinical, physiological, biochemical, immunobiological, rentgenological, and other methods of examination. The precipitation in labor must be taken into account. The health of a certain group of people or of all population of a populated area, region, republic is studied with the help of a sanitary statistic method. There are different criteria which characterize physical development, demographical incidence, birth rate, death rate, average lifespan, and others, morbidity, and pathology of the studied group. Hygienic standardization. Environmental standards are defined ranges of environmental factors which are optimal or the least dangerous for human life and health. The basic object of hygienic standardization are maximum admissible concentration for chemical admixture, dust, and other hazards. They use in Canada, Germany, and different regions. Maximum admissible level for physical factor. Dose limit for ionizing radiation. Permissible exposure limit. Threshold limit value. Time-weighted average. C. Setting is a maximum concentration never to be exceeds. Basic objects which are under the hygienic norm setting can be divided into two groups. The first group contains factors of anthropogenous origin which are unfavorable for a human being and are not necessary for the normal life activity: dust, noise, vibration, ionizing radiation. MAC, MAL, and LD are those parameters which are set for this group of factors. The second group contains factors of natural surrounding which are necessary in certain amount for normal life activity: foodstuff, solar radiation, microclimatic factor, and others. For this group, the following parameter must be set: optimum, minimum, and maximum admissible parameter. In those cases, when factor influence the human not only directly, physiologically, but also indirectly through the environment, all types of possible influence must be examined at hygienic norm setting. For example, setting of hygienic norm for toxic substance in the water of natural reservoirs, determination of maximum concentration must be based on worsening of organoleptic property of the water and organoleptic signal. Toxic influence, a sanitary toxicological signal, and disturbance of process of self-cleaning of reservoirs, a general sanitary signal. History development of hygiene science. Source of development of hygiene concern to an extreme antiquity. Already at people of ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, India, China, and others, the first attempts of creation of healthy condition of a life were observed. It was expressed in the various actions concerning a way of life, feeding, the prevention of infection disease, and struggle against them, physical training. Hygiene has achieved the greatest development in ancient Greece. The first generalization of the saved-up empirical hygienic knowledge is made by the founder of antiquary medicine, Hippocrates. At a treatise about weather, water, and district, Hippocrates gives the regular description of an environment, shows the influence on health and specific value of sanitary action in the prevention of illness. Greek writers, philosophers Plato and Aristotle, in their works developed the idea of Hippocrates about the influence of the environment on health of people. Therefore, in Greece, where at the beginning paid the main attention on personal hygiene, and the Spartan education based on physical training, gymnastics, began to carry out public sanitary action in the field of water supply, feeding, removal of city sewerage, and others. Successors of cultural reach of Greeks were, as it's now, Romans from Rome's sanitary action have received the even greater development. Pride of Ancides realm was large water pipes, swimming bath, and a bath, but this blessing used by not all citizens, as water was assessed with the big tax. A monument of a city accomplished there is a system of a water drain with using the sewerage for fertilization of gardens and fields. Period of the Middle Age is characterized by full decline of personal and public hygiene. Constant was both a low cultural and material level of the population served as favorable circumstance for development of epidemic. Flashes over smallpox, cholera, typhus, mass spreading over leprosy, skin, venereal and ice illness were the characteristic phenomenon then. The pandemic of pleasure in 14th century, now under the name of Black Death, has carried away about 25 million men. However, many medieval doctors state valuable ideas concerning hygiene. The work of the outstanding Tajik doctor and philosopher Abu Ali ibn Sina, Avicenna, the canon of medicine, used in 11th century, has received the word popularity. He was the author of 450 books on many subjects, many on philosophy and medicine. He is considered the father of modern medicine and is one of the greatest physicians of all time. Some sources actually state that Avicenna was born in Hamadan. A number of medical texts have survived from the Salerno school on various aspects of medicine. The best known in the regime Sanitas Salinator of the Salerno Book of Health. The book is filled with practical suggestions for maintaining health at a time when medicine was largely ineffective in curing sickness. The study of occupational disease was virtually ignored until 1473 when Ulrich Ellenbogen published his pamphlet on occupational disease and injuries among goat miners. He also wrote about the toxic action of carbon monoxide, mercury, lead, and nitric acid. The field of industrial hygiene was boosted by his instruction in hygiene and other preventive measures. This period is start of descriptive hygienic science development. Renaissance, 15th-16th century, is characterized by some revival of interest to hygiene, in particular to professional hygiene. The scientific treatise of Italian Dr. Ramazzini about illness of handicapment, 1700, in the first composition in this area. Bernardo Ramazzini, the father of occupational medicine, published De Morbis Artificum Diartiba. The book describes the hazard of 52 occupations, including letter tanning, wrestling, and grave digging. Ramazzini says that with a general improvement in diet and less arduous work, people would be better able to resist attacks on their health. Ramazzini also notes that nuns tended to have a high incidence of breast cancer and that lead miners and workers often had skin the same color as metal. More intensively hygiene began to develop in 17th, 18th, and especially in 19th century. As an caution to this was the growth of large industrial city and a concentration of the territory of significant number of the workers who have been not provided vernacular, living in insanitary condition owing to the danger of the epidemic disease has much more increased. Higher role in development of the hygiene science had German scientist Max Petergoffer, which by the right is considered as a founder of hygiene. He has entered an experimental method due to that it has turned into an expert science having in the objective ways of researcher, giving an environment paramount value in etiology of disease. Petergoffer has planned the basic ways of its improvement. He paid also the big attention to personal hygiene. Max von Petergoffer, a German chemist and hygienist. Petergoffer is considered to be a founder of hygiene and he is known for his research in the ventilation of dwelling, sewage disposal, and spread of cholera. He developed a reaction for the detection of bile acids and a method of the quantitative determination of carbon dioxide. Carl von Voigt, a German physiologist, was definitive measure of gross metabolism in mammals, including humans, helped to establish the study of physiology of metabolism and laid the foundation for modern nutritional science. He is also one of the fathers of hygiene of nutrition. The second half of the 19th century occupies a peculiar place in the world history of formation and development of prophylactic medicine. It was the period when empirical hygiene, the source, had become a thing of the past obtained experimental scientific substantiation and became one of the leading fields of the contemporary medical science and health care of the population. It was favored by certain objective conditions, in particular, negative result of industrialization and urbanization, population migration and distribution of mass infection disease. In Russia, the hygiene appears to be developing in the original way, and many sanitary actions have been carried out in Russia earlier than in the East. For example, the public water pipe in Novgorod existed in 11th century. Streets in Pskov was made in 12th century, whereas in the East Europe this action had been carried out for 300 years later. Formation of hygiene as independent science began at the second half of 19th century. The big role it has played the propagation of idea of preventive medicine by the largest representative of Russian science, the literature, pedagogics, and the clinical medicine, expressing progressive things. Lomonosov, Belinsky, Dobrolyubov, Ushinsky, Pisarev, Mudrov, and others. The founder of Russia Therapy, Mudrov, his assembly speech in Moscow University in 1820 said, "To take in hand healthy people, to protect them from illness hereditary or menacing, to order an appropriate way of life is fairly and for the doctor quite, for it's easier to protect from illness than to treat them." The first independent department of hygiene in Russia was organized in 1871, year at the Military Medical Academy in Petersburg by Dobroslavin. He is now, by the works in various areas of hygiene, has created the first Russian textbook on hygiene and magazine Health, the first hygienic experimental laboratory, and has laid the foundation on which domestic hygiene began to be under construction. Dobroslavin was one of organizers of Russian Society on Protection of National Health and Family Medical Education in Russia. In 1882, The Faculty of Hygiene in Moscow University has been created and headed by Erisman, who, as well as Dobroslavin, was one of the founders of domestic hygiene. Moved from Switzerland to Russia, Erisman became its patriot and has brought in the big contribution to a hygienic science and sanitary practice. His textbooks for a long period have been the basic source of hygienic knowledge for doctor and student. Erisman's original works on school, professional hygiene and hygiene of nutrition used wide popularity. The significant contribution to development of separate branches of hygienic science have brought Krotkov, Marzeev, Molkov, Letavet, Sidorenko, and nowadays working in System of Scientific Institute of a Hygienic Structure, Izmerov, Pokrovsky, Volgarev, Shandala, and others. One of the first faculty of hygiene created in Russia is also the Faculty of Hygiene of the Moscow Supreme Family Race, created in 1908 under the direction of Professor Kotchina. During many years, this faculty was headed by the largest Russian hygienist of time, Ignatov, Litvinov, Sidorenko, and now is transformed into the Faculty of Hygiene and basis of Ecology of Human of the Russia State Medical University. This ascent of Second Moscow Medical Institute named by Pirogov. History Development Hygiene Science in Azerbaijan. Important role in spreading the hygienic knowledge in Azerbaijan in medieval time belonged to such personality as now Tajik physician Ibn Sina Avicenna, canon of medical science, Isa-ur-Rahi, medicine, Nizami, Iskandar-Naume, Ahmed Tabrizi, Al-Mukhtar, and others. Development of the hygienic science in Azerbaijan at period Soviet power began with organization of hygiene department in 1922. Now, department name General Hygiene and Ecology in Medical Faculty of Baku University. Since the organization of this department, it was managed by the Professor Meliyuk, Professor Bayrashevsky, Assistant Professor Nuriev, Professor Efendizadeh, the Assistant Professor Bagirov, Professor Samedov, and now Professor Kazan. Today in the hygienic practice applied new modern direct human ecology. What is human ecology? Human ecology or anthropoecology, Greek anthropos, a human being, is the study of mutual interrelationship and interaction between people and the environment, sustainable development problem and health promotion. The study of the biosphere includes its time and spatial components, the impact of anthropogenous factors, and also the study of a human being, human population, and mankind in general, as man is the most significant central figure in the sphere. It's anthropoecology as a science that could adjust the profit that break accosts. Man and only he is greater all natures, misfortunes and troubles. The priorities in solving this or that ecological problem are those issues in health and people's life-sustaining activity, and then only those concerning environmental issue. Anthropoecology is a cross-disciplinary science with such sciences as ecology, biology, genetics, sociology, history, geography, economic, and medicine. As human ecology as a fast emerging discipline, the discussion on the topic human ecology as an integrative science presents a problem because human ecology means quite different things to different people. Thus, the following definitions sketch the development of concept of human ecology. Kosmachev described human ecology as an integrated science which studied the interaction principle between people and their environment, issue of population development, sustainable development problem and health promotion, as well as the improved human physical capability and mental process. His opinion, it has also human ecology fundamentals are based on medical and biological research and investigation, which science could be considered as an independent. The human ecology is about the relationship between humans and the environment. As all living organisms, humans are under the influence of various environmental conditions such as climate, visual environment, geochemical content of soil, radiation, electromagnetic fields, pathogens, nutrition, geographical zoning, and solar activity. However, there exists a two-way inverse relation. On the one hand, the interdependence of human welfare and health to the habitat condition, and on the other hand, the interdependence of nature to humans. From the moment when humans appeared on the earth, they have affected the biosphere, changing the earth's surface structure and chemical environment balance, influencing the cycle of matter and biota structure. Thus, according to the recent information from the World Health Organization, about 80% of all diseases are the result of the scale of ecological problem. For example, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, chronic catarrhal disease, colorectal cancer, allergic, genetic anomalies are connected with urbanization, air and water pollution, increasing social stress level, the intensive tempo of modern life. Dramatic increasing human pressure on nature has resulted in the so-called counter-patching reaction, where an living organism system pretends to self-preservation through regeneration feedback. This feedback system in the biosphere is forwarded to excluding a human being as a species. This triggers the immune protective reaction, and as a consequence of this, an increase in the genetic burden of mankind, a growth of mental illness and neuropathy, occurrence of infection, a decline of overall illness resistance, and a growth of stress due to the overpopulation in cities. Hereditary factor equal 18-20%. Factor pollutant surrounding ambience 70-20%. Physical etiological factor 8-10%. Object of the hygiene study, person, health, and environment. There is a wide application knowledge in the sphere of human ecology. Effect estimation of various technogenic factors on the life-sustaining activity and health of the population. Consequence, analysis of emergency situation not only natural, but also technogenic ones for the benefit of human life-sustaining activity and health and demographic behavior. Conclusion, background of today and future human-related habitat and possible change in the population health level of specific region, where there are large-scale industrial, economic, or social targets. Identification, evolution of ecological troublesome zones, requirements document for anthropogenic activity to maintain human-related habitat, and project ecological evolution. Social ecology examines a system in which events take place as interaction between parts, and this in turn allows further events to happen. More precisely, this involves a circularity between the interaction and the element of the system, in that the interaction makes possible an enduring existence of the element, and the element continue their very existence by further interaction. Basically, there are three recursive systems: society, S, environment, E, and human being, H, as seen in the following system triangle. Social ecology integrates first biotic natural with second human natural. Human society and non-human natural are connected in one evolutionary flow. It analyzes modern urban communities, interrelationship with such a community, and interplay between urban and industrial environment, and also system of anthropogenous environment restriction imposed on different social relationships. For example, family relations. Serbian sociologist Danila Markovic defines social ecology as a branch of sociology that studies the specific interaction between a human and the environment, the latter as an impact of natural and social factor on a human, and further his influence on the environment for self-preservation. Social ecology is a predecessor of human ecology. Accordingly, the term social ecology and human ecology are often used in the same meaning to designate one and the same discipline. Although social ecology is an independent science, it studies the same process and phenomena as human ecology. However, distinct difference in that the central concept of social ecology is the society environment or human being system. Today, environment includes four inextricably integrated components. Natural environment, totality of circumstance surrounding an organism or organism, including a combination of external physical factors to promote its renewal and auto-regulation. It directly or indirectly affects not only an individual, but also mankind. Agrotechnic environment, artificial modification of an environment by people, including built environment, agricultural lands, country roads, landscape areas. Social environment, public relation where the behavior of one person depends on the behavior of social group. Techno environment or second world environment, created and transformed by man with no analog. The history of interaction between mankind and the environment can be considered as a gap between the environment itself and the artificial environment, where man reorganizes himself around new techniques and gradually becomes more and more dependent on them. Eventually, a state of complete dependence is reached. Risk factor and the health of the population. The health of the population in different countries depends upon the following factor and process: social economic situation and lifestyle, types of activity 50%, labor, out of labor, social, cultural, medical, environmental condition equal 20-25%, air, water, soil radiation, climate, biological condition and their factor equal 15-20%, depends sex, age, heredity. Condition of the health organization system equal 10-50%, quality, timely, periodically, fairness, identical, economical. The warnings about risk from hazardous substances are everywhere. Every day, the news media report information on hazardous substances. Many products now tout warning labels or claims about being all natural and chemical-free. Many hazards are identified by testing animals. Whether the hazard estimate using animals is the same for humans. Information is uncertain because of lack of complete scientific understanding of how a hazardous substance makes you sick and how it moves through the air, water, or ground, to view human or animal study of the health effect of individual chemicals and mixtures of chemicals, the variable natural or weather patients affecting exposure. Uncertainty about exposure. We do not know for certain that monitors or mathematical models always produce accurate estimates of exposure. It's nearly impossible to account for the different exposure a person may encounter daily. Ideally, regulation would like to eliminate all pollution and its risks, but this is usually not a realistic expectation. Regulators must address the most important risks and decrease them to the level at which they believe the risks are smaller than the benefits of the activity causing the population. This is similar to the millions to each day when they balance the risk of an automobile accident with the convenience and necessity of driving. Just as a driver will buckle up and drive deficiently to be suffered, agencies take regulatory action to eliminate as much risk as is possible without losing the day. In studying the influence of environmental factors on health of a person, hygiene closely cooperates with an ecological science, more precisely with the ecological of a person studying the general law of interaction of biosphere and anthroposystem of mankind, its groups, population, and individuals, influence of natural sphere of a person and groups of people. Among the factors forming health of the population, the hygienic science allocates hereditary, endemic, natural climatic, epidemic, professional, social, and ecological. Hereditary, genetically caused factor forming hereditary disease, a hemophilia, daltonism, albinism, unreal myopathy, and others. Endemic, the district caused by biogeochemical features of a region resulting in occurrence of endemic disease, dental fluorosis, caries of teeth, endemic gota, strontic and molybdenum rickets, and others. Natural climatic, character for a certain climatic zone, causing growth of good disease in a zone of a good climate, and skin disease in condition of a hot climate. Epidemic, the regional feature of district resulted in particular to occurrence of infection, rickettsiosis, leptospirosis, Russian tick-borne encephalitis, and others. Professional, factor of the production process capable to lead to the development of occupational disease. Social, feeding, a way of life, social well-being, and ecological. Modern hygiene problem today, pollution of environmental objects and its prevention, hygiene normalization, urbanization and its problem, provide begin foodstuff to population, warning of unfavorable influence production factor on employers' health. The laws according to the World Organization of Public Health Service form up to 25% of the pathology of the person, and in the separate country and separate region of this country, the person of ecologically caused disease can be an essentially higher. The research executed in the different countries of the world, including in our country, the big material describing ecological change of the natural environment and the influence on health of a person is saved up. It's established that for last century the quantity of carbonic gas, the basic hothouse gas, in an atmosphere of a planet has increased for 300 billion tons, that makes approximately 80% from initial quantity. to the main source of received in an atmosphere of hothouse gases, the enterprises of a heat power complex concern. Emission under the Russian enterprises of thermal power station have made in 1990 year 720 million tons, and in next year, through their reduced to 60 million tons, continue to make a great bulk of pollution. The massive additive to pollution of an atmosphere by hothouse gases is brought also with motor transport. The contribution of motor transport of Russia is less significant and is 1 year about 20 million tons, including about 70 million tons carbon monoxide. Accumulation of carbonic and other hothouse gases in an atmosphere reduces dispersion of heat in space, conducts to increase of mid-annual temperature approximately on 0.05 degree 10 years and has reached in 1993. The tendency of reduction of annual amounts of deposits takes place also is especially in summer time. Development of the biotechnology using the rare opportunities of microorganisms, cells of plants and animals will allow to solve many questions of a national economy, to create play in the industry biocatalysts, to represent of expensive process in chemistry and petrochemistry, to provide transition of medicine to essentially new level of preventive maintenance, diagnostic and therapy, to solve a number of actual problems on preservation of the environment. At the same time, construction of the enterprises of biotechnology without taking into account the basic requirement of the hygienic science and practice, futures of biotechnology and specific opportunities of the influence of health of the person has led to a number of negative displays. Many enterprises of biotechnology were under construction in immediate enterprises of the petrol refining industry, district power station, with emission unknown to the natural and health of the person, and its complex influence aggravate harmful effect. Use in biotechnology of microorganisms, producers, cultures of cells, manipulation with the genic device create precondition of adverse influence of biological agent on health working, is a special infringement of technological rules. One of the major problems by way of a professional risk is influence of workers with a live microorganism and end products of biotechnology. Now, before a hygienic science where was a necessity of development of the theory of interaction of biological agents and an organism of a person on the one hand, and influence of this again on ecology of region on the other hand. The serious alarm is caused by structure and safety of feeding of the population. Last year in our country consumption of some product of an animal origin and also fruit and vegetables has decreased. Deficiency of higher grade protein in diet on the average across Russia has made 25%, vitamin C 50%, vitamin of group B and vitamin A 20-30%, food fibers more than 40%. Thus, essential reduction in quality of product is marked. So, for the period from 1988 to 1993, as well across Russia from 0.8 up to 3.82% of the investigated tests of foodstuff exceeded the established hygienic rules on lead, 1.1, 1.8% on cadmium, 0.6, 4.7% on mercury, 6.5, 15.9% on nitrates, 1.7, 3.3 on pesticide, 0.9, 1.4% on aflatoxin B in 11.4% on antibiotic. The problem of the superfluous mountains of nitrates should be considered, and from the point of view of possible formation from then cancerogen nitrazamine. The adverse condition of the natural environment causes the big concern in physicians by virtue of possible influence on health of a person. Research in this direction are carried out in the majority of the advantaged countries of the world. One of the most exact indicators of ecological trouble in place of residing of a population is reproductive health. Influence of the polluted environment causes in pregnant women and newborns the disturbance of the function of endocrine, immune, blood, and other systems. At pregnant women in 2.6 times frequency of anemia. In 2 times a pathology of kidney has increased. On 21.9% frequency of cardiovascular disease has grown. Even more essential change of current of pregnancy unmet in city with advances petrochemical, metallurgical, a pulp and paper industry near to aluminum factor. The given influence of environmental contamination on children is raised through the virtue of complexity of an established of such correlation of research in this direction are not numerous. The children organism is more sensitive to the influence of adverse factor of an environment. It's caused by a number of physiological features. The increased permeability of the skin, mucous membrane of a gastroenteric path and respiratory ways, a hematoencephalic barrier, low acidity of gastric juice, immaturity of fermental system of a liver, in low size filtration of kidney, immaturity system of local immunity. Environmental contamination influences annual health of adult population, and this influence can be aggravated with that circumstance that in industrial region the essential part of work ability population is exposed to influence of harmful occupational factor. It's marked that in ecologically adverse region disease of adult population in 2.5 3 times is high on chronic disease of respiratory tract and lung, in 2.5 times is high on cardiovascular disease, in 1.2, 1.9 times is high on disease of nervous system. Growth of environmental contamination by chemical, first of all cancer, and radioactive substance influence on oncological disease. For last 20 years, the amount of such patients among urban population has grown in 1.7 times and shows the tendency to the further growth. Thus, among the factors forming health of the population, ecological are the most essential. As against ecology of the person, hygiene not only fixes character of interaction of the environment and the person and its possible influence on health, but also develops the measures directed on increase of positive influence and decrease of harmful influence. The importance of hygiene knowledge for treating doctor. Hygiene is a science which study of regularity of various environmental factors, influence on population and individual health with the aim of substantial or hygienic standard, sanitary rules and preventive measures intended for assurance of optimal condition of vital activity, health improved and prevention of disease. A prophylactic work on a domestic, territorial or shop floor area rank important place to less than medical and diagnostic work in activity of doctor of medical type. Prophylactic activity of doctor is based on methodological and methodical principle of hygienic diagnostic, which forces the correct estimation of level of environmental factor exposure of individual or investigated population, diagnostic of the state of population health, in particular, health of subperceivable subgroups and individuals, establish an objective cause-effect relation between the influence of environmental factor and possible change of health. The various demographic, statistical, epidemiological, clinical, experimental methods are used for carrying out of hygienic diagnostic. The most modern method among above mentioned is a risk assessment of unfavorable influence of environmental factor on health, identification of probability of undesirable effect development in certain levels and duration of harmful factor influence. The wide use of chemical compounds in vital function of man causes intensive contamination of environment and origin of disease of chemical etiology. Scientific ground and practical application of hygienic norm, maximum allowable concentration, prevents the harmful action of the organism of the chemical pollutants. The hygienical standardization of xenobiotic and the different objects of environment is characterized certain features which are conditioned a necessity to make into account all of possible negative consequences of its influence over an environment and human organism. Learning on. To know the methodological and methodical principle of hygiene, the role of environmental factors in etiology of different disease, the theoretical basis and the general scheme of influence of complex of environmental factor on the population health, the main definition and the content of stage of risk assessment methodology, methodical approaches to risk assessment of harmful influence of environmental factor on population health, basic principle and method of scientific ground of hygienic norm of harmful chemical matters, basic parameter of toxicometry, chart of toxicological experiment, future of hygienical standardization of xenobiotic and the different object of environment. Able to make the program of epidemiological research from an exposure and estimation of correlation between environmental factor and population health to carrying out the integral estimation of the state of environment and health, to identify a risk factor, its harmful consequence for health, to calculate the relative and population risk for population, to estimate the basic parameter of toxicometry of chemical matters, to define critical indicator of harmfulness and to interpret the result of experimental research, to grant a maximum admissible concentration of chemical matters in the different object of environment, to estimate the type of combined action of xenobiotic, to expect and estimate the actual intake and actual dose of toxic matters, in particular pesticides and nitrates. Theoretical basis of hygiene, contribution of national scientists in their scientific substantiation, the general philosophic and subject methodology of hygiene, the significance of hygiene for forming of professional thought and practical activity of doctor of medical type, role of environmental factor as an etiologic, causal factor and risk factor of development of different disease, the deterrent and stochastic possibility effect in human organism on the influence of environmental factor, hygiene diagnostic, ecological dependent disease, method of their prognostication and prophylaxis, the methodology of high quality, conceptual and quantitative integral estimation of the state of environment and health. Population health as an integral creation of environmental estimation. Prognostication of change of population health by means of the estimation of state contamination of atmosphere, air, water, soil. The method of establishment of correlation between the state of environment and health. General scheme of epidemiological research of identification and estimation of correlation between environmental factor and health. Thank for attention.